right? So I should go live. ऊपर चेक करके इन्फॉर्म कर दूं, स्टार्ट कर दूंगी. Live, thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome all of you for today's session. A bit of sore throat is still troublesome, but I'm quite sure that all of you can still make sense. It's better than yesterday, day before yesterday. So let us start with the given dimension of what we had been discussing. In the previous session, I had discussed with all of you that we would be reflecting upon the various facets of modernity. And I requested all of you to go through the content associated with modernity. That is the dimension of French Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, the background of it in the form of commercial revolution, and the intellectual revolution, that is period of enlightenment. It is the period of enlightenment that I explained in greater detail with all of you. French Revolution, I had discussed it on the first day. So French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, and the, we all could understand the intellectual revolution that had been discussed. I said just read the basic details. It's simple, factual information. Once you go through it, it shall be substantiated. Now, with respect to it, if you are getting stuck in any of the given statements or paras, feel free to raise your concern. I shall be addressing the same. I'm going to start with founding fathers, though I had requested all of you to read and come. I believe that all of you must have read it and you must have come. And if there are any doubt, feel free to ask. So that's what I would be suggesting. So now let us start with respect to this given dimension. So the founding fathers of sociology, when we are going to reflect upon the same, first and foremost, we all can, okay, Kashish, you're asking how bureaucratization has disorganizing effects, because see, earlier, when we are talking about bureaucracy was not present per se. The way it was present in earlier times when the monarchs were there, it was in the form of, we can see there were feudal lords who were working under the monarchs, or there were, we can see ministers, the council of ministers who were working under the monarch, and the bureaucracy was continually subservient to the monarch. Whereas in this given situation, we all can see during the Industrial Revolution, we all could see that rather than we can see creating the possibility of the formal organization of work, there were situations when there were rigors and frictions associated with what ought to be followed. So that was also there. And along with that, we can also see that bureaucracy was not functioning in the similar manner the way it was during the time period of monarchy. Also, we can see that the new rules and regulations were introduced, and the new rules and regulations were not internalized by the masses in general. So because of that also, there were certain frictions and ruptures in the relationship between the common masses and the interaction that took place with the bureaucracy. All right. So I hope that's making sense. That's how you can connect with this. Again, we can see that, when the revolutions were occurring at that time period, the role of bureaucracy again varied from place to place. In certain places, it was in support of the system, and in certain places, the empathy lied with the masses. So that also, rather than facilitating the smooth functioning of the society, it will be also it was aiding in the changes that were being articulated on ground. So that's also something that can be connected with. Any other questions pertaining to it prior to the founding fathers of the sociology? This is the area, the founding fathers of sociology and beyond, which will be helpful for all of you. I have opened the question paper for all of you. You can see the previous year questions that have been asked so far, the last 10-year questions. So you can see if we talk about the question pertaining to this one, you can see this. So pertaining to this 2021, it's saying that when we talk about it, Europe was the first and the only place where modernity emerged. So Europe was the first and the only place where modernity emerged. And then what is the question? The question is comment, right? So this weekend, I'll make your academic group, the reference group, and there I will be posting types of questions and what is expected from which type of question. Whenever the question says comment, so comment always implies, please do remember that whenever we use the term comment, so comment will always imply that give your opinion. What do you consider? Is it correct or not? So when it is saying that Europe was the first and the only place where modernity emerged, comment means, do you believe it is a true statement? It is a correct statement that Europe was the first and the only place where modernity emerged. So in this, you had to write that yes, the unfolding of modernity and the credit of it does go to Europe. But saying that it is the only place will not be fair. And then you'll have to discuss that how, like, the seeds of modernity were present in different cultures and societies from Asia to America. So that is how you will have to talk about the idea that emergence of modernity, the credit cannot go exclusively to Europe. But when we talk about how and why Europe is given the credit, so the three reasons, that is the French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, and the Intellectual Revolution in the form of Enlightenment and post-Enlightenment period gets the, I would say, the focus. So that's how you will be responding to this question. You will be talking about both why Europe is given the credit and then changing the para, why saying that it is the only place is faulty. It is wrong. How the idea of rationality, the dissent, questioning mind has been a part of different cultures. Like India has a dissenting tradition, quote unquote, Shastrarth has existed in Indian subcontinent for centuries together. The way the learned people used to come together at public platform and used to debate over various philosophical inquiries to ascertain which ideology is the best one to be followed. Along with that, we can also connect when we are talking about Europe. So in Europe also, sorry, in US, you'll be talking about the Chicago School and the various unfoldings that led to the development of rational thought process in the given area. So that's how you're going to work out in this given question. Now, you can say, how did the intellectual forces lead to the emergence of sociology? Discuss. So it's a plain question. It's saying discuss. Always pay attention to the demand of the question, that what is the demand of the question? Because as per the demand of the question, the answer should be crafted. So when we say that how did the intellectual forces led to the emergence of sociology? So this is basically, if you remember, we had discussed the period of enlightenment. So from literateurs to scholars to social reformers, religious reformers, all these are intellectual forces. I told you how to draw the flow chart. So you can draw the flow chart and then you can substantiate the content, right? So now you must be feeling something that you are understanding what has to be written. But until and unless the ideas are not a part of your memory, you cannot write it. So memorizing is essential. And how can you memorize? The old school methods, standard 10th, 11th, 12th, graduation, when you used to write the key points and cram it. So that is something which you will have to do. This has to be done for all the 4 GS papers as well as optional. Once things are a part of your memory, your understanding, the capability to blend answers becomes effortless. Now, discuss the historical antecedents of the emergence of sociology as the discipline. Now, see this historical antecedents. So when the question is saying, and it's also discuss. So when it is saying historical antecedents of emergence of sociology as a discipline, so means what had happened historically due to which sociology emerged. So we'll be talking about historically various forms of change that happened in Europe led to the intellectual inquiry for a distinct discipline, which would lead to the emergence of a discipline which can provide what? Solutions to the problems which the society was facing then. So when we talk about that what kind of phenomena was happening, what kind of changes were occurring, what kind of possibilities were required. So when we get into that given subsegment, we all can reflect upon the historical background, that is, if you remember, the political conditions, that is the French Revolution, the economic conditions, that is the commercial revolution and industrial revolution, and the intellectual, we can say, debates and dialogues and inquiries for a better society, that is the intellectual revolution in the form of post-enlightenment, or rather enlightenment period and post-enlightenment period. So that is what has to be written. And how much? 150 words. So you have to be also, you've got to be very brief, right? So in the initial 50 words, reflecting that how the historical antecedents are leading to the emergence of sociology, as in a new discipline is required in the face of social change, because a new discipline will provide answers to those change. A new discipline will provide answers to those frictions and problems that the society is undergoing. Then after that, you will be changing the para and very briefly mentioning how the political revolution acted as a historical antecedent for the emergence of sociology. How the intellectual revolution acted as a historical antecedent for the emergence of sociology, and how the industrial revolution or the economic revolution acted as an antecedent for the emergence of sociology. 2 sentences each. And this is how you will be able to explain or manage the given subsegment, right? So I hope all of you are able to understand how to build or how to develop the content for this answer. Next, we all can see explain. So explain is not talking about comment or critically analyze, right? When we are talking about it. So historical roots that shaped sociology's birth reveals its evolution from ancient philosophies to a distinct discipline. Yeah, that also can be written. Now, with respect to this, explain how sociology has emerged as a distinct discipline based on rationality and scientific temper. Now, there are 2 segments. One is distinct discipline, that how it emerged as a distinct discipline. And second thing, it is saying based on, which is based on what? Rationality and scientific temper. So a part of this answer will also come when you're reflecting upon this. A part of this answer will also come from chapter 2, because sociology as science is there in chapter 2. So when the question is saying that, explain how sociology has emerged as a distinct discipline based on rationality and scientific temper. So the demand of the question, if I reflect upon it, it is explain, but what? How? That's the thing. That's the core demand of the question. So when we are talking about this given subsegment, we all need to reflect upon this. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So when we are reflecting upon the given question, so we have to see what is the core demand. The core demand is how. So how sociology has emerged? How? So what are the conditions due to which it has emerged as a distinct discipline? Means, unlike other disciplines which existed in the past, how sociology becomes a unique discipline, a different discipline, different from the others. What it is serving is not being served. It is not being served by other disciplines. And this discipline is based on logic, like rational and scientific temperament. So you will have to discuss that how, again, the same thing, the Industrial Revolution contributed to that logical thinking, how the French Revolution contributed to that logical thinking, how we can say the intellectual revolution contributed to that logical thinking. Very briefly, that's one para, like about 60, 70 words. And then changing the para, then you'll have to discuss that how the development of natural science, innovations, discoveries in that time period developed a logical thinking or a positivist thinking. And that positivist thinking, how it encouraged people to go for scientific inquiries. So even studying the society was based on a scientific inquiry, that every time we are studying the society, it should be based on a logical scientific inquiry. And that is how we all could see the phenomena unfold. So that's how you are going to substantiate. Okay. Then furthermore, when we are discussing about the same, we all can see this one is saying, how had Enlightenment contributed to emergence of sociology? We have a lot of notes related to the same, and it has been discussed also day before yesterday, so you can substantiate. Further, it's saying sociology emerged in Europe and flourished to begin with on social reformist orientation in the US. Comment. So here, when we are talking about it, we can see that when the question is demanding the word comment, okay? So with respect to comment, again, it's like you have to provide your own opinion. So sociology emerged in Europe and flourished to begin with on social reformist orientation in US. So first part of the answer is going to be focused on Europe, that how the different changes that were occurring in Europe contributed to the emergence of the discipline. Change the para, and then you have to talk about the social reformist orientation, as in what was happening in US, which contributed to the emergence of sociology as a discipline. We are going to discuss this part now, that is just in a short while, with respect to the thinkers. Again, you can see how did the French Revolution and Industrial Revolution play an important role in the emergence of sociology. So this was an old syllabus question, 2012, you can see 30 marker question, because that was the old pattern. So I believe you can write this answer as well, because you have a lot of content. I told you questions can become long. It can be 20 marker or so, or earlier it was above. So it can become a heavier question when you have two components clubbed together. So French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, they clubbed it. That's why we all can see that the question is demanding, it is having more marks, and it can help you in a better way. Now, further, we all can see it's saying emergence of sociology is an outcome of modernity and social change in Europe. So outcome of modernity and social change in Europe, it's a short note question, 10 marker question. Going by present standards, the question has repeated itself, similar to the historical antecedents. Okay, so I hope all of you are feeling comfortable that whatever is being taught, the similar temperament questions are being raised by UPSC. And the topic or the notes are quite relevant, and it is something which is helping you to fight it fit as per the demands of the question paper, right? So you've just started. Imagine it's just the introduction classes that you have attended. And just on the basis of introductory classes, 2 lectures only, you have been able to address this given chunk of question paper. And I believe that you are understanding the concept. Understanding the concept is essential. Second thing becomes is memory exercise. That is when you write and memorize, and then things stay with you. You are able to bring greater justice to your selection. Now, moving ahead with respect to the founding fathers of sociology, when we are talking about the same. So with respect to this, we all can see that the intellectual revolution was occurring. I told you that. And the different types of social changes were occurring. In that given scenario, there are a list of thinkers who come into existence. Here in the notes, you can see I have given you the list that is associated with Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, there is Emile Durkheim, there is Karl Marx, there's Max Weber. All these thinkers have come from different and distinct disciplines because sociology was not existing then and there. So of course, they will have a different and distinct intellectual background. So when we are talking about the same, we all can reflect upon Auguste Comte. So Auguste Comte is considered as the father of sociology, and he argued that the methods used in physics, okay, so what methods? Positivist methods. That's how we can see he'll bring positivist methods in sociology because he's borrowing the scientific methods of a natural science, that is physics. So he's borrowing the natural science method and he's incorporating it here. So Auguste Comte, who's also considered as father of sociology, is using the methodologies of physics, okay, and he's implying it, he's putting it to understand the functioning of the society, that how a society evolves and how it is functioning. So the evolution and functioning of the society is trying to understand it from a natural science method, right? I also told you that he is the person who gave the name sociology. I have not written the details of it, but he gave the name sociology because if you remember, I told you that it was like Saint Simon, if I help you recall. So Saint Simon, he had given the term physics, social physics, and he was the guru or he was the mentor of Auguste Comte. Auguste Comte was interning under Saint Simon, and Saint Simon had started presenting his lecture papers in public forum associated with having a distinct discipline which can scientifically study the society, the social problems of the society, and try to provide logical answers to it, systematic, rhythmic answers to it. So when we are talking about Saint Simon, we all can see that it is like, when he's developing the insights and Auguste Comte is helping him write the speeches, write the content at that distinct time period, we all could see that Comte, he carried forward the work of Saint Simon because Saint Simon, he died like early. He could not survive to develop sociology as a distinct discipline. So it is Auguste Comte who helped in the development of the discipline. Okay. And how did he help in the development of the discipline? By carrying forward the research work, the lecture papers, the discussions on public forums. He continued with all of it. And when this term social physics was used by one of the statistician, so there was this lady statistician and academician who also presented a research paper by the name Social Physics, but it was based on statistical data. So, and it became very popular. Then he realized that probably continuing with the same name will not be fair. And that's how Auguste Comte gave the name sociology. And that's how, because of his contributions, we can see he's called father of sociology. So we can see that he has identified 3 stages. We discussed about these 3 stages orally, verbally in the previous session. So he identified 3 stages of human society. The first stage is theological stage. In theological stage, people believe in religion. The second stage he discussed was associated with metaphysical, whereby everything is explained on the basis of philosophy. That is, what should be there, what ought to be there. And third stage is associated with positivism, when human beings, they try to have a scientific approach to all kinds of social phenomena, what's happening and how it ought to be explained. So when we are talking about Auguste Comte, this is how we all can connect with the given idea. So Comte, when we discuss about him, we can see that he stressed on the adoption of a new scientific method of analyzing society so that we might improve society through a thorough understanding of it, right? So when we are reflecting upon the same, we all can consider, we all can understand that what starts unfolding before all of us. So Comte, when he is saying that he's stressing upon the adoption of science society. So we all can understand that When we are reflecting upon the scientific method, it will be what? Observation, generalization. Like, when we create a hypothesis, we collect the data, we go for the research, all of it, right? So he's talking about adopting scientific methods. And he said that through those methods, we can improve upon the society and a thorough understanding of it can also be made. Okay. So he said that to know, to predict, and to control. So to know, when you observe, when you have all the relevant data, to predict means what kind of future possibilities can occur for the society. And when you can predict that this is what can tentatively happen, you can control the situation, you can control the problem, you can control the mishap, you can control the unfolding of whatever is happening in the society. सिंपल भाषा में जो भी चीज आप प्रेडिक्ट कर रहे हैं, ऐसा हो सकता है, ऐसा भी हो सकता है, ऐसा भी हो सकता है, तो अगर आपको दिख रहा है कुछ गड़बड़ हो सकता है तो आप पहले से कंट्रोल करोगे ना. अगर आपको दिख रहा है कि सपोज टू religious processions are going to get carried out and people from two different religious groups may walk and they might have antagonistic relationship, दोनों में strained relationship है, तो आपको अगर एक ही रास्ते से दोनों गुजरेंगे तो हो सकता है एक दो लोगों के मिशअप क्रिएट करने से, गलत हरकत करने से हो सकता है दोनों ग्रुप में लड़ाई हो जाए, है ना. ऐसा ऐसा कंसिडर किया जा सकता है. And if any such thing occurs in that given situation, we all can consider that if any such mishap or any such, like we can say, friction unfolds, then you can always control the situation by deploying the police, by seeing to it the route is changed, by seeing to it that if the route has to be the same, then the timings are different, hours apart, right? So that's a scientific way to study the society and regulate, control, keep the situation under check. So to know, to predict, and to control. That is what it implies. I hope everyone is able to understand. Okay. Now, so with respect to the same, when we are talking about it, so this early stage emphasizes on the scientific analysis. The scientific analysis of, we can say, social life. And when we are talking about this early stage is based on the scientific analysis of the social life. So scientific analysis of social life, how will we have this? So when we start understanding what's happening on ground, so when we start understanding what's happening on ground, and when we start interpreting that whatever is unfolding on ground, what kind of interventions are required to rectify the situation. जो भी गड़बड़ हो रहा है उसको हम ठीक कैसे करें, right? So scientific analysis of social life, क्या cause है, why it is happening, how is it happening, in what ways is it happening, what it will lead to, what shall be done to regulate it, what shall be done to bring corrections to it. ये हो गया scientific analysis of social life. And even today, we can use these scientific methods to understand present day complex society, not just the past. I apologize for the disturbance. Oh God, I just need some lukewarm water. Hold on for a moment. Okay. So, with respect to this, when we are talking about it, we all can say this, that when we are seeing the given dimensions. Achha, there are two questions also. Swagatika, you are saying question number 4 is a bit confusing. We'll get back to it, no worry. Thank you so much, Shashank. If you're connecting, it's worth it. Okay, now, so here, question number 4. आप स्वागतिका तब तक नहीं कर पाएंगी ना जब तक सेकंड चैप्टर भी ना हो जाए, ठीक है. So let us like give it that sense of breathable insight that when we are talking about sociology being rational and scientific. So how is sociology rational and scientific? Let us give it some time to understand the same, right? Because we will be understanding this chapter also, which we are already doing, that how thinkers are bringing rationality and scientific temperament. Okay. So how it has emerged. So starting from Auguste Comte himself, we can see that scientific methods are constantly employed in the studying of the society. Okay, emerge means something which is rising from the base, right? So in that, you'll have to start with the early day thinkers, how they employed the scientific method and how the methods brought logic and predictability through this discipline of sociology. Okay. Answers will get discussed. You just first need to understand the base content. If base content is not understood, oh sorry, if the base content is not understood, then it will create a problem. So you have to understand the base content first. So here we are talking about it. So in the early phase, we can see that Comte is using the scientific analysis of social life, right? And when we are seeing that how this scientific analysis of social life undergoes, that what's happening on ground, we all can see that uh, it starts observing what the society in Europe is experiencing. वहां पर चल क्या रहा है, ठीक है? So although we have located the beginnings of sociology in Western Europe, because French Revolution, France is in Western Europe, Industrial Revolution primarily focused around Britain, France, Germany, all these areas. So this is again Western Europe. That's why beginnings of sociology in Western Europe, because the change occurs over there in like Western Europe. We all can see that because of the intellectuals making the inquiry, the changes unfolding over there. But we see that over the time period, it started spreading to all different areas. So we all can see that in the second half of 19th century, second half means 1850s onwards. I'm writing it here, 1850s onwards. So this is the second half of 19th century. The development and acceptance as an academic discipline was not uniform in Britain, because they believe that do we really need a different and distinct discipline? So it's not uniform. Means certain universities or schools of thought are accepting, yes, we need a discipline like sociology. Certain of them are refusing it. So it's written British universities for a long time were relatively much more interested in anthropological investigation of the so-called primitive societies, right? In the more remote areas of the world. They are not initially, these British universities are not interested in sociological inquiry, more of anthropological inquiry of tribal and primitive societies. Now, so British sociology, and now this so-called primitive society, because primitive is not a very healthy word. It's a very controversial word, and you cannot use it for any community because that's a culturally aggressive term. When you call someone as primitive, you consider the person as backward. Maybe technologically, a person or a community can be backward. The technology may not be so updated. The material resources may not be so updated. But culturally, calling someone backward is abusive, because culturally, there can be communities which are not so technologically prosperous or exposed, but culturally, they are rich, they are diverse, they are more accepting, they are less based on friction. For example, maybe there can be certain tribals, not maybe, it's true also, there are certain tribals in Africa which are not technologically at par with the mainstream society. But the idea of gender justice, the idea of restitutive laws, reformative laws is exercised better in them compared to many mainstream modern communities and societies in the world. So calling a community primitive on the basis of lack of technological exposure is quite aggressive. We have to understand that. That's why it's written so-called primitive societies. You could see this. So that's why it's so called primitive societies. So earlier, Britain was interested more in anthropology rather than sociology. And British sociology, it constituted a relatively minor discipline center, mainly in London School of Economics. So this is how this discipline starts emerging. So how is it emerging? We see in British disciplines, which is associated with, when we further move ahead, we can see that the early classical works of sociology of the late 19th and early 20th century, it is there in France, Germany, I told you that earlier it is in Western parts. So in the Western parts, when we are talking about it, okay. So in Western parts, when we are talking about it, so France, the credit goes to Emile Durkheim, Karl Marx and Max Weber are associated with Germany. So that's how we can connect it with Europe per se. Again, when we develop upon it further, we can connect Herbert Spencer. Spencer, again, he's a British person. We can see this. So Spencer, I apologize. So Spencer, when we are talking about him, his background, which is not again given in great detail over here because it's not needed for UPSC, but you should know a human being as a human being. When you know them as a person, you know who is experiencing what, who is behaving how, and what kind of intervention the person is creating. Because whoever is like, let's say, understanding the given subsegment in a specific manner, that's the way they would be responding to the given crisis. Anyway, so Spencer, he was actually a journalist working with The Economist, and he was also interested in biology. Because he was interested in biology, he understood the principle of evolution, and his concept survival of the fittest was also borrowed by Darwin. It is Spencer who was the first person to use the term survival of the fittest. You all must be knowing it with Darwin, right? So survival of the fittest. So it is Spencer who is giving this idea, which is borrowed later by Darwin. So his view of evolution of societies is known as we know, social Darwinism. So what is he talking about? Evolution. Evolution is always stage-based, phase-based, from first phase to second phase, right? So Spencer, he is considering that society is moving from simple stage to complex stage, and as it takes place in an organism. And later on, he also gives an organismic analogy, which is associated with interdependence of the different institutions, different bodies. So when we are talking about the given insight associated with from simple society to complex society. So in simple society, what will happen? Communities will be simple, mannerisms will be simple, methods of behavior, interaction, all that will be quite, I would say, regular in nature. So when we are talking about the same, garam hai? Acha. So when we are discussing about the same, we all can connect with the given idea. Thanks. So we can connect with the same idea, and we can see that the simple society will be relatively homogeneous. Homogeneous means they'll be following the same order. They will be like following a similar pattern. And homo means similar, genus. So homogeneous, they will be similar. खाने पीने जीने हर चीज का rules, regulations, behavior, customs, quite similar in nature. So that's how simple societies are. As we grow complex, it will become too diverse. It will become heterogeneous. Like there'll be different languages, food patterns, cultural patterns, even different classes. There will be hierarchy and stratification. Both the things can be there, right? So that's how societies will move from simple to complex. And he's also saying that a society tends to evolve and become more and more differentiated. The more the division of labor, the more the society becomes differentiated. And this is the idea which was picked from Herbert Spencer by none other than Emile Durkheim, who is the French thinker. Emile Durkheim, remember I had discussed his idea of suicide very briefly. We'll be discussing about Durkheim in greater details later. Presently, you just need to understand the kind of magic that gets created by knowing these thinkers and the kind of insights that they create further. So with respect to this, when we are talking about it, we all can see that when we are talking about it, we need to understand that Herbert Spencer, he is the person who is giving the nascent stage of idea for Emile Durkheim. Durkheim को एकदम बेसिक आइडिया देते हैं कि कैसे मतलब डिविजन ऑफ लेबर को समझना है, सोसाइटी के एवोल्यूशन को समझना है, हाउ द सोसाइटी इज कॉन्स्टेंटली मूविंग फ्रॉम वन स्टेज टू द अदर. Okay, so Durkheim, when we are talking about him, he said that sociologists, they study social facts. Now there is something very interesting which you will notice. Durkheim is using the term social fact and Max Weber is using the term social action. Though we will be discussing about social fact and social action in greater detail, because in previous year questions you will be finding social fact is asked in 150 words, social action is asked in 150 words. Okay, and this will be taught in great detail when we'll be discussing these thinkers distinctively or separately. फिलहाल इसको ऐसे समझ लीजिए in simple language. Social fact is what? Something which is external to us, but it can influence our thought, behavior, and action. Simple. Like, for example, school dress, school uniform. Suppose a child does not like the school uniform, saying that I don't want to wear blue shirt and gray trouser. It looks so dull and drab. I want to wear a pink shirt and a nice, brown trouser, and I want to wear some nice shoes. And the parents were like, no, you can't. The school has asked that every day you should be wearing this dress. So the child is like, no, I don't like this piece of clothing. But can the child go in colored clothes? Maybe on the birthday with candies in hand. And the teacher will be like, okay, fine. So it's the child's birthday. That's why the child is distributing candy. So it can be accepted once in a year, but not on a regular basis. Why? Because wearing the school uniform is a social fact. You cannot choose the uniform. You cannot change the design of the uniform. You cannot impact we can say the design of the uniform, that nahi trouser nahi pehenenge, hum to shorts pehenenge, shirt be sleeveless pehenenge. You cannot do all that, all right? So when we talk about social fact is external to us. It is external to us and it constrains our behavior. It regulates our behavior. It impacts our behavior, right? Is everyone understanding? All the students? Yes. So Debashish and Shashank, Swagatika, everyone is understanding this? Kashish, everyone who's online. I'm not able to take all the names, but is everyone understanding and connecting with what social fact is? I hope it is understandable. It's a simple concept and it should be doable, right? Now, so when we are talking about social fact, we will be dealing with this term in greater detail later. When we are talking about Emile Durkheim, when the thinker will be taught, you shall be understanding that. Great. So all those students who are responding, Amit Raj and Kashish and everyone, great. Certain names are not flashing, so I cannot take the names, but I can read all the responses. I'm glad to see that everyone can connect with the idea of social fact. Sociology की सबसे खूबसूरत बात क्या है? Once you understand, you just understand it. And once you understand, memorizing it through keywords and presenting it in the answer becomes effortless. All the effort is all about understanding the basics. Once you understand, it's like, oh, I just understand what's unfolding in front of us. So Emile Durkheim is considering that sociology is nothing but study of social facts. स्पेंसर क्या बोले? सोसाइटी क्या स्टडी करना है? सोसाइटी एवोल्यूशन को पढ़ना है. ये सिंपल से हम कॉम्प्लेक्स सोसाइटी की तरफ कैसे बढ़ रहे हैं. सोशल डार्विनिज्म, राइट? उनसे पहले, स्पेंसर से पहले कौन है भाई? तो ऑगस्ट कॉम्ट. कॉम्ट कह रहे we can study the society and we have to understand the society scientifically. Because when we are able to understand the society scientifically, we can predict it. When we can predict it, we can control it. याद आ रहा है उनका वो predict और control वाला term. You have to just memorize it in that similar manner. See this. So to know, to predict, to control. ये है Comte. And that's why he is saying adopt scientific method. So adopt scientific method to know, to predict, to control. That's his famous phrase. So, and when we talk about Spencer, Spencer is social Darwinism. He's talking about evolution of societies, that how evolution of societies can be studied through the discipline of sociology from simple to complex. Durkheim, he's talking about social fact. What is social fact? So social fact के लिए keywords हम देखेंगे तो यहाँ पर social facts are external to human mind. Exterior means outside. We don't create it, but it influences our thought. Like a school uniform, it imposes constraints. क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है. So it imposes constraints on human behavior. Okay. So social fact एक व्यक्ति नहीं बना, समाज बना. Society is creating the social fact. And it is influencing the individual's growth, thought, development. Right? Now, so when we are talking about this given possibility, we can further move ahead and we can see Max Weber, and Max Weber is talking about social action. With respect to social action क्या है भाई? तो social action, no, is an act where you can see the individual is performing and assigning a meaning. And it is subjective meaning. It is an interpretative meaning. See, when we are in a public space and suppose everyone naturally like blinks, right? Blinking, you understand, no? The blinking of the eye. So after sometime the eyeballs, they tend to get dried. So because of drying eyeballs, we just wink, like we blink, right? So this blinking, when we talk about it, ये blinking social action नहीं. पर suppose हम public platform पे मान लें हम लोग friends के साथ birthday party में गए और एक friend जो है उसका टांग खिंचाई करना है. So to pull the leg of that friend, suppose one friend says, "Oh, I saw this fellow with another girl, and he was just chit-chatting with her in that coffee shop." He's like, "When? No." And it's like, "I saw you," and the other person just winks. And the person nods that, yes, we have to play along. So the entire group, "Oh, yes, I saw that day this fellow was also texting someone." And the entire group becomes a party to it and like, "Oh, yes, yes, yes." Now, this like blinking, when we are talking about it, and winking. So winking is like, you can see one eye is closing. So this winking is interpreted by other friend that play along. It's not spoken, play along. Let's like pull his leg, but everyone contributes to it. So that winking is interpreted. So any human action which is perceived by the other person and it is interpretable, it is interpreted. So it is an action which is performed in the presence of another human being, and it is also open to subjectivity or interpretation, is called a social action. Social action के लिए दूसरे व्यक्ति का मौजूद होना जरूरी. Other person should be there, whether online, offline, whichever way. But the other person should be there. Another thing is, whatever one person is doing, the other person should be able to understand it, interpret its meaning, that what the other person implies to say. Suppose it so happened last weekend, not last weekend, I mean 2 days back, when I had a very sore throat. I was struggling with my throat, and I was struggling to speak. And there were moments when, I wanted to say something, and there was like a coughing going on, and I needed lukewarm water, and I wanted to say something. Then a student, understanding the intention of the statement, the student used to propose a word that, "Ma'am, do you intend to say this?" I'm like, "Okay, yes, this is what I want to say." So how could you predict? So that predictability was coming by not only understanding what I was speaking, but the gesture I was making for it, that another student could understand the gesture and carry forward the statement, right? So anything for that matter, anything which is involving two or more individuals. It is having an exchange of communication. It can be verbal, it can be non-verbal, and there is an interpretation involved. That interpretation shapes the way the two act. That is something which is referred as social action. दो लोगों का होना जरूरी है और इंटरप्रेट करने की भी क्षमता होनी जरूरी है. If they are not interpreting, then social action is not taking place. Suppose two cyclists, they are crossing, okay? They collide. They get up, pick the cycle, and they move. ना एक दूसरे को सॉरी बोला, नमस्ते बोला, मुस्कुराया, ना एक दूसरे को घूसा दिखाया, कुछ नहीं, ठीक है? No, nothing. Mechanically, when they fall down, they mechanically pick the cycle, they move. No social action took place. But suppose they pick the cycle, they bow down before each other, and they start moving. Now, this bowing down is a symbolic action, whereby a gesture of being sorry, apologetic, the politeness is expressed. Both accepted that from each other and moved. So social action took place. Even though verbal exchange did not, but social action did take place. Suppose they both showed like fists to each other and showing finger to each other and then moving ahead. Social action took place. So social action will be having two or more individuals. There will be some action that will be performed, and it will be associated with interpretation of a meaning. Subjectivity is there. That subjective interpretation is involved. I hope that's making sense to all of you, right? Shall we move ahead? Okay. So then we have Karl Marx. So Karl Marx, 1818 to 1883, one of the most intellectual and influential thinkers of 19th century, whose impact has not waned despite 150 years that have passed. So when we think of Karl Marx, we will be seeing that he is like the giant elephant in the room. You must have read the blind men and the elephant analogy. So it's just the same thing. Different disciplines, different subjects borrow the insights of Karl Marx, quote Karl Marx very exhaustively, and he becomes relevant for economics, political science, public administration, sociology, philosophy. So multiple disciplines Karl Marx is taught and understood. He's also important from sociological point of view, because he helps us to understand that every society is divided into two classes. One class which is having all the resources, the Ambanis, and another class, the have-nots, which is like seeing it on the phone, the gala wedding and the grand wedding, and then complaining that, oh my God, the Geo recharge has increased by 40 rupees. So the have-nots. So the haves and the have-nots will always be there in the society. And the conflict between them shapes the human history. That's what he said. So his core concept was based on class and class. That was his core concept when we are talking about it. So these different thinkers, they helped in shaping the sociology as a discipline in an exhaustive manner when we are talking about it. So the development of sociology, when we talk about it in France, there is Auguste Comte and Durkheim. When we say in Germany, it is Max Weber, also Karl Marx. In England, it is Herbert Spencer. And their contributions, we all can see, has helped us or have shaped in the crafting of sociology as a discipline, in the emergence of sociology as a discipline. Prior to these thinkers, please do remember, prior to these thinkers, if you have to like, if it is like discuss the intellectual antecedents for the emergence of sociology as a discipline, ठीक है? तो अगर आपको क्वेश्चन आ गया इंटेलेक्चुअल एंटीसीडेंट्स फॉर द emergence of sociology as a discipline. So what will you write? Let me see who all can recall what has been taught so far in past few days. Yes, What all will you write? Intellectual antecedents, people. You can like go through the notes that has been shared with you. You can just run through the material and let me know what will you be writing in this specific answer. I can see a lot of you are typing and I like it. Yes, keep going ahead. Okay, all right. So you're thinking of Voltaire, Rousseau, John Locke, and their contribution. Great. The social reformers. All right. Yes. What else? What else? Yes. What else can we substantiate it further other than this? देखो, इंटेलेक्चुअल अगर एंटीसीडेंट्स पूछा प्रीकर्सर आने के पहले, तो ये जो यहाँ पर हम लोगों ने सिर्फ थिंकर्स के बारे में जो बात किया था, सोशल रिफॉर्मर के बारे में बात किया था, वही नहीं, कंजर्वेटिव थिंकर्स भी आएंगे, बोथ. ठीक है, यहाँ पर देखो बताती हूँ. So when we are talking about it in intellectual antecedents for the emergence of sociology, so under the component of intellectual antecedents, ये जो diagram हमने बनाया, literateurs, scientists, economic and political thinkers, religious reformers. Okay. Maybe I'll change the color so that all of you can see it. So there will be two things. First, the people who are pro-change. Okay. So pro-change. People who are pro-change and those who are explaining that how like change is occurring and how society can be understood through a new discipline which can explain this change, a new discipline which can embrace this change and logically explain the given possibilities. And then you can also talk about anti-change. Anti-change who will be there? So conservatives. Conservatives. Then you'll be their names. Conservatives, why they are important when we are talking about intellectual antecedent? So intellectual antecedent. Intellectual antecedents for emergence of sociology. For emergence of sociology. So why will we also recall, we can say the conservatives? What's the reason for recalling the conservatives? So the reason to recall the conservatives is that first they will be talking about hope and despair. They'll be talking about how to maintain peace and order. How to maintain peace and order. What is the prime objective? The objective is a harmonious society. Harmonious society which is able to overcome the frictions, right? So hope, what is and despair, and free from despair. So conservatives are giving these objectives for social. The objectives or the goals, ठीक है? इसको ऐसे कर सकते हैं. So the goals or objectives of sociology as a discipline. It comes from the conservatives. And from the thinkers of period of enlightenment, what are we getting? We are getting the issues or topics of change, the reform, scientific analysis of those problems, of the social problems. Again, scientific inquiry. So scientific inquiry related to what? So scientific inquiry associated with providing solutions. So scientific inquiry to provide solutions. Scientific inquiry to provide solutions to the problems. So scientific inquiry to provide solutions to the problems. What kind of problems? The social problems that we are undergoing. Fine. So I hope all of you are getting an idea how to deal with this answer. Intellectual antecedents, how they are shaping the given possibility of emergence of sociology as a discipline. So individualism and idea of equality, liberty, fraternity. Yes, you can incorporate that also. Rationalism, Kantian idealism, positivism. Yes, you can incorporate that. So conservative reaction, emphasis on society. And always remember that if you're making a flowchart is not the answer. What you write, language is the answer. So maybe if you're writing that the period of enlightenment thinkers can be subcategorized under this. Okay. And if you're making the flowchart, like literateurs, scientists, this, then just briefly write this part. That these thinkers or these intellectuals, they gave us, and what are they giving? So talk about that. So maybe I'll change the color once again. So these thinkers or these intellectuals, they gave us the idea, the issues which need a reform, which need a change. They also helped us analyze the social problems scientifically. They also gave a scientific inquiry and provided meaningful, real solutions to those problems, which brought predictability in their inquiry. ठीक है. और उसके बाद आपने लिखा whereas, para change किया, whereas the role of conservatives who are anti-change can also not be denied. फिर उनका कुछ नाम लिख दिया, जोसेफ डी गोनाल्ड एंड आपका ये माइस्त्रे एंड ऑल दीज पीपल. और उसके बाद लिखने के बाद फिर आपको लिखना होगा like you know how they are bringing in relevance to sociology as a discipline, how they are contributing to the same. I hope everyone is getting an idea associated with it. So this is how you move. कहाँ चले गए हम? तो इधर सबसे पहले hold on. Scope पर पूछना है. So this. So yes, you can talk about Irvin Zetlin also. So this is how you'll be building upon the answer. Always remember, whenever you are completing a subsegment, not only prepare the keynotes, but also try to solve at least 2 to 3 PYQs. When you solve PYQs, your tendency to improve your memory is better, and your tendency to make notes becomes better, and your capability to respond to answers in tests in the future also improves. Okay, now getting back to the game when we are discussing about the same. So sociology thus flowered in precisely those societies that had experienced the most pronounced or greatest social changes, like France, Germany, and England. They went truly social, like revolutionary transformations. And here is where we can see sociology is emerging as a discipline. Now, when we talk about the term scope, ठीक है, तो स्कोप कहने का मतलब क्या होता है? तो यहाँ तो कुछ बेसिक आपको बैकग्राउंड दे रखा है कि when we are talking about sociology, we can see that sociology is a term that is coined by Auguste and the French philosopher in 1839. And we can also see it is the youngest of all social disciplines. It is youngest, and that's why it is also the most scientific amongst the social sciences, because it is employing a lot of research methods and techniques. So when I was discussing about it, So sociology is society's logos, science, scientific study, etymological meaning. Now comes the component scope of sociology. What is scope? Scope is the subject matter. Scope is the field of inquiry. Scope implies the boundary, right? So whenever we are talking about scope of sociology, this is what it implies. So scope, if we are talking about it, is meaning A, what is the subject matter of sociology? What is studied in sociology? Or what is the field of inquiry of sociology? Or what is the boundary till what limit a specific topic is studied in sociology? That's what the word scope implies. So when the question comes, the scope of sociology is extremely wide. When the question emerges that the scope of sociology is extremely exhaustive and wide, so we need to understand that whether it can focus on interactions between individuals and at the same time on larger issues like unemployment, caste conflicts, rural debt, etc. So when we are talking about the scope, we need to understand whether it can deal with such larger than life issues simultaneously. So we all can see the discipline, when we are talking about sociology as a discipline, so you can see it is defined not just by what it studies, but also how it studies. Okay. So not just by what it studies, but also how. So what he nahi, also how it studies. When we are talking about sociology, means it's not only related to the topics, because debt, unemployment will be studied in economics also. So it's not only the topic which makes it sociological, it's the methods that are employed to analyze the problem that also makes it sociological. Okay. So we can see that it will be studying microstructures, micro units like a family, the relationship between two people. And it will be also studying, we can say, the possibility of, like, let's say, the various associations, institutions, bodies, structures, which are mesostructures. Meso is the, like you can understand, it's bigger than the micro, but it is still moderated in size. And then the larger society, which is the macro unit. So sociology helps to study all the three levels. At social level, we'll be seeing there will be interdependence of parts. And the moment we say subsegment, so under the interdependence of parts, we all can recall, we can say Herbert Spencer and Emile Durkheim. Emile Durkheim. So we all can see that social organization is associated with this given subsegment, interdependence of parts, and the interdependence of parts can be connected with these two subsegments. Now, social structure, सबको समझ में तो आ रहा है? कोई ऐसे सुस्ती में तो नहीं आ गया सुनते सुनते? हाँ, अच्छा, ऐसे मोड नहीं होना चाहिए. Be energetic enough, all right, everyone. So scope इसका क्या है? Larger से लेके smaller से लेके larger. At all levels, we can see the scope unfold. The importance of sociology unfold. So एकदम छोटे से छोटा यूनिट भी पड़ेगा, बड़े से बड़ा यूनिट भी पड़ेगा. So छोटा यूनिट, micro unit, family, and meso unit, structures, institutions, associations, bodies, macro unit, society. Simple. All right. So social structure, in structure, it will be seeing pattern of interrelations. Social institutions, it will be seeing the various types of customs, habits, etc. The culture, and culture, how it is learned from one generation to another, one community to another. So all that. Now, when we are talking about the scope of sociology, there are different schools of thought which discuss the scope of sociology, different schools of thought which try to explain that what is the subject matter, the boundary, the content of sociology as a discipline, right? For example, when we are talking about the same, there is the specialist or the formal school. The specialist or the formal school, ध्यान रखना, first two chapters एकदम अच्छे से समझ लेना. The moment you understand the first two chapters, your capability to connect and your capability to create in all other chapters which sound easy will become easy only when the first two chapters are understood. You know, Like, for example, social stratification, work and economic life, politics and society, family, marriage, kinship. All this is very interesting. But every time I'm using the school of thought, and you're like, what is the school? The term school being used in sociology. So all this is explained in the initial sessions. So it's very important to pay attention to the first two chapters. You understand the first two chapters, it becomes like relatively very easy for you to connect with all the other chapters associated. Many a times, just to generate interest, a lot of teachers, they start with simpler chapters like social stratification. Yeah? Social stratification, the very first topic, first subtopic is the thinkers, the sociology thinkers associated with, and their theories associated with social stratification. You cannot understand the theory if you don't understand the schools of thought, the way people are interpreting the larger reality. So when we are talking about the first school of thought, it is related to the specialist or the formalist school. ये स्पेशलिस्ट और फॉर्मलिस्ट स्कूल वाले कौन थे? इनको लगता था सोशियोलॉजी का बहुत लिमिटेड स्कोप है, इनको लगता था कि सोशियोलॉजी वही चीज पढ़े जो कोई और नहीं पढ़ रहा. So they were very particular about the very domain of sociology being exclusive, very exclusive. Okay. So when we are talking about these thinkers, this is the list of the names: George Simmel, Max Weber, Ferdinand Tönnies, Alfred Vierkant, Leopold von Wies. All these people, they supported the specialist or the formalist school. They considered that sociology is an independent subject with its own limitation in scope. And it should be associated with only those topics, only those components which are related to society, not like something which is too generalized. So we all can see that they are focusing on competition, they are focusing on subordination, they are focusing on division of labor, all of it. And that is expressed in different fields of social life. Like we can see economics, we can also see the given component associated with politics. We can also see the component associated with religion. So all of it is something which we all can connect with. So sociology, we can see that it is something which should disentangle the form of social relationships, and it should not study the abstractions per se. It should be able to study the given dynamics in a more exhaustive manner. So we all can see that emphasis is on microphenomena like social action and social processes, and making abstract generalizations about concrete realities. So the subjective understanding of objective reality means the interpretative, subjective means interpretative understanding of what's happening around us is what is sociology associated with. तो ये इनका कोर डायमेंशन. दे बिलीव सोशियोलॉजी क्या पढ़ेगा भाई? तो सोशियोलॉजी पढ़ेगा इंटरप्रिटेटिव अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ आवर ऑब्जेक्टिव रियलिटी. What will it study? It will study micro realities, finer details like human relationships. Okay. Social action. Social action याद है? वेबर बोल रहे थे. So social action, social process, and we will try to formulate a generalization from what we are studying, and that generalization will bring scientific inquiry. Because if you remember, when we were in school days, science engaged with generalization. So sociology generalization से deal करेगा. फिर सिमेल आते हैं. सिमेल क्या बोलते हैं? तो सिमेल जो है वो बोलेंगे कि भाई सोशियोलॉजी जो है ये फॉर्म्स ऑफ ह्यूमन रिलेशन को पढ़ेगा, डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ ह्यूमन बीइंग्स एंड द ह्यूमन रिलेशंस. दैट्स व्हाट इट विल स्टडी. So he believed that when we are talking about the subject matter of sociology, he said that sociology is going to study how, like, different forms of human relations are there, how they tend to interact with each other. Okay, what is the relationship between the physical sciences and geometry? When we are talking about geometry, we can see that it is associated with the spatial form of the various relations and the objects, right? And we can see that in this given respect, there is no scope or no possibility of the content. There is like anywhere, wherever we can see the scope and space for human relations, that can be a part of this given possibility. Alfred Weirkant, you can see his name also. So he is saying that sociology कुछ नहीं है, social और psychic behavior का combination. It is a combination of social and psychic behavior. We study both, we study sociology, right? So when we are talking about it, so sociology को according to Simmel क्या पढ़ना चाहिए? It should focus only on formal behavior. इसको actual behavior नहीं की पूरी detail जरूरत, only formal, and that's how it will be more formal in nature. So social relations in a formal way, not in a micro detailed way. So वीरकांत बोल रहे हैं कि social psychic दोनों behavior का combination. Von Weiss क्या बोल रहे हैं? So Von Weiss is saying that there are two kinds of fundamental social processes in human society. One is the associative process. In associative process, we come close to people and we tend to correlate with them. And second will be the dissociative process. We all will be saying that. For example, that will be like, friction and conflicts that occurs between communities. So Von Weiss is saying sociology is studying both the associative and the dissociative relationship. Then comes abstract means facts. No. Abstract does not mean facts, rather the other way around. When we say abstract, abstract are things which are based on vagueness, unclear, like human emotions. Okay. So I am not feeling good if someone is sick. It's like, why? Are you having a headache or bad health? The person like, no, not bad health. Health-wise, I'm okay. Then why are you not feeling good? बस ऐसे ही. तो ये बस ऐसे ही क्या है? एक abstract emotion. So when we say that abstract, so abstract will be something which needs interpretation, something which is vague, something which is not so clear. So that is what is abstract, the word all about. Facts will not be abstract. Facts are observable. Facts are derivable. Right? Is it clear? Fine. So देखो, सबसे पहले when we are talking about this given subsegment, we all can understand that when we are talking about the scope of sociology, we can connect it with first and foremost the specialist or the formal school. Under the specialist or the formal school, we have a list of thinkers, that is George Simmel, Max Weber, Ferdinand Tönnies, Alfred Weirkant, and Leopold von Weiss. These are the thinkers whom we all can connect with. And along with this, when we are further moving ahead, just a moment. So along with this, when we are further moving ahead, we all can connect with a lot of, we can consider other thinkers, and मतलब ये थोड़ा सा रटने वाली चीज है. So just engage yourself with this given subcomponent. When we say scope of sociology, factual type के question ही आएगा, and it will be easier for you to score. Always remember, the capability to score in first 3 chapters is higher compared to all other chapters. Reason, there is no scope for improvisation. Scope of sociology. Today, I cannot add something to the scope of sociology. But 99% of what has to be the subject matter of sociology has already been drafted, created by multiple thinkers over the time period, more than a century. So, scope का कंटेंट नहीं चेंज होगा, चाहे 20 साल पहले पढ़ना था या आज पढ़ना है. 99% of the content remains the same until unless some new chapter, new subject matter gets added, and that also gets added as a sentence. Otherwise, nothing. Similarly, emergence of sociology. So French Revolution or period of enlightenment, before or and after that, both incorporated. In this industrial revolution or commercial revolution, what will you add? It's going to remain the same, right? Scope is going to be the same. Sociology and common sense going to remain the same. Sociology in comparison with different social sciences going to remain the same. Science, scientific methods and techniques, right? When we talk about that, that's also going to remain the same. So the tendency to create a change, when we talk about it, okay, when we are talking about what kind of impact is created, what kind of change is created, we all need to understand that what kind of breakthrough is required, right? So when we are continually talking about the kind of breakthroughs which are required to study this subject and get the maximum marks possible from the examiner, you need to understand which areas are highly scoring. And chapter 1, 2, 3, because there is less scope for improvisation, they are highly scoring. Chapter of social stratification, or like, let's say, um, uh, politics and society, family, marriage, kinship, every once in a while, some or the other area will keep getting improvised because we are studying human society. And when we are talking about human society is ever changing. So human society अगर बार बार change करता है, तो एक ever changing society में हम ये situation continually देखेंगे that an ever changing society will have more space and scope for improvisation. So आगे के chapters में बहुत update चाहिए होता है. Paper 1 maybe, 2 maybe. And that's why sociology becomes a very dynamic discipline, because it helps you to think, connect with what's happening in and around us. Like, let's say, politics and society, someone is studying. And the person, if is not able to see that how the idea of nation or nation state differs from China to Russia to India to Africa, if the person is unable to understand that, the person will not be able to bring that subliminal connect to the discipline. So this is something which, I will be talking about when I'm encouraging all of you to think and connect with this given discipline, right? तो आप लोग सबको ही क्या करेंगे, हमेशा इसको कनेक्ट करने की कोशिश करेंगे that what is this discipline all about and what kind of intellectual breakthroughs are required to be caused associated. तो इस वाले चैप्टर को जो अभी हम लोग कर रहे हैं, ये सबसे बेसिक चैप्टर्स है, इसमें कोई चेंज वाला स्कोप नहीं है, और आराम से 10 मार्क्स में 7 मिल सकता है. एक बार समझ लिया और रट लिया तो. So getting like 7 out of 10 is possible. So this is like, the relatively more scoring area. When we say that in sociology, 310 is possible. So it is possible because of these chapters, chapter 1, 2, and 3. So even though it may sound like little drab or little, that मतलब बहुत basic है, बहुत रटना पड़ रहा है. Then once it's internalized, you'll get amazing marks. Okay. Now taking up your questions. So please explain objective reality and subjective reality again. Yes, why not? Objective reality, there are 20 people sitting in this classroom. Subjective reality is that there can be people belonging to different states, different cultural patterns, different food palettes, different mannerisms, and differences in their response. So that's the subjective reality. The subjective reality with respect to how exposed a person is. Maybe someone is technologically exposed, but not societally exposed. Someone is societally very exposed, but technologically lagging behind. So these are subjectivities. Subjective reality means something which is open to interpretation. Okay. And objective reality is something which can be observed, like numbers. X number of students, X number of boys, X number of girls. So that's objective reality. Amit Raj, is it clear? And I think the question that abstract word is also getting clear. Abstract will be associated more with subjective. Okay, now with respect to this, when we are talking about it, हाँ, वॉनबीज भी समझा देती हूँ, अभी तो स्टार्ट ही किया है. तो देखो इसमें 3 स्कूल ऑफ थॉट है. जिस्ट हमेशा बनाने आना चाहिए हर बच्चे को. तो every child should be capable of preparing the gist. So like, let us consider, if I'm talking about I have to prepare gist of this given area. So how it should be prepared? So first and foremost, we can see, maybe now I should change the color so that everyone uses it in this manner. So first we can see there is specialist school of thought. आफ्टर स्पेशलिस्ट स्कूल ऑफ थॉट थोड़ा सा हम नीचे जाएंगे तो हमें दूसरा स्कूल ऑफ थॉट मिलेगा, वो है सिंथेटिक स्कूल ऑफ थॉट. फिर सिंथेटिक स्कूल ऑफ थॉट के बाद जब हम फर्दर और नीचे जाएंगे तो हम इसके डिफरेंट फेजेस को पढ़ेंगे. डिफरेंट फेजेस जिसमें सोशियोलॉजी का स्कोप डेवलप हो. देखो इसमें ये जो 2 स्कूल ऑफ थॉट हमें दिख रहा है ना, दैट इज एसोसिएटेड विद like the synthetic school of thought and this specialist or formalistic school of thought. तो specialist जैसा word नहीं दिख रहा, specialist. तो स्पेशलिस्ट स्पेशलाइज करता है, तो उसी तरह ये लोग बोलेंगे कि सोशियोलॉजी एक स्पेशलिस्ट सब्जेक्ट है जिसमें हर कुछ नहीं पढ़ा सकते. There are specific topics which are exclusive to sociology, and no other subject will deal with that topic. So specialist school of thought will talk like that. Okay. Whereas synthetic school, जैसा synthetic कपड़ा, what is synthetic? Synthesis, mixture. So in the similar manner, synthetic school of thought will be saying, अरे थोड़ा सा political science से भी topic उठा सकते हैं, और political science वाला topic because society से related politics है, तो उसका हम sociology वाले भी interpretation दे सकते हैं. So nothing is exclusive to political science only. Sociology can also borrow that idea, borrow that topic and study. So I hope that gets clear to all of you. Specialist will talk about it being exclusive, independent, limited scope, right? It is talking about, like, micro phenomena has to be understood, subjective understanding of the topic, subjective understanding of objective reality. जो दिख रहा है उसका interpretative understanding होना चाहिए. कैसे interpretative understanding होना चाहिए? Subjective understanding of objective reality. वही सेम चीज, दो लोग टकराए बाइक से, आपको बनाया था एग्जाम्पल फर्स्ट या सेकेंड डे कि पौंडीचेरी में गई, और वहां पे मैं न्यू ईयर पे देख के हैरान हो गई दैट like these two bike walas, they collided, and I was like, young boys, they are drunk, they are sloshed, now they are going to hit each other very bad. But I, a North Indian who expected a big fight to break out, I saw the boys collided. They got up, dusted their clothes, saw each other, asked how they are doing, hugged each other, wished Happy New Year, picked their individual bikes, and again they like raced. So that came as a surprise because in North India, if two bikes are colliding, there's a fair chance the boys will start fighting. So objective reality is the bikes collided, they fell down, the boys hugged, moved ahead. The subjective understanding is how come this behavior? This is not the behavior you see in northern parts of India. You see people blaming each other, using cuss words, sometimes beating each other also down to pulp. So the subjective understanding, when it is employed, it is also associated with the cultural difference. The way the boys are raised, the way the girls are raised, the way the culture is not judgmental that why someone is partying or drinking. Responsible behavior is exercised at all times. So when that is something which is employed, so subjective understanding of objective reality, so interpretative understanding of what is observed before us is the scope, the content, the subject matter of sociology. This is one school of thought. Which school of thought? The specialist or the formal school of thought. This school of thought, this set of thinkers talk like this. Who are these thinkers? Simmel, Weber, Tönnies, Ferdinand, this Virkant and Leopold von Kuhn. ठीक है, तो अब इसमें थोड़ा थोड़ा सबका, जैसे सिमेल क्या बोल रहे हैं, तो सिमेल बोल रहे हैं कि भाई हम ह्यूमन रिलेशंस जो है उसको पढ़ेंगे, और ह्यूमन रिलेशन में भी फॉर्मल बिहेवियर, हर बिहेवियर नहीं, एक्चुअल बिहेवियर नहीं, फॉर्मल बिहेवियर को पढ़ेंगे एज कंटेंट ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी. देन वीरकांत क्या बोल रहे हैं? Sociology is a sum total of social and psychic behavior of man. The social behavior and the psychic behavior clubbed together, it leads to the understanding of human behavior, social behavior, and what society is experiencing. So the interpretations. So it can be explained by abstract conceptual design. So abstract conceptual design should be created, and when that is getting created, the scope or the subject matter of sociology gets created. Von Wies. What does Von Wies? Von Wies बोलते हैं कि समाज में दो तरह के, there are two kinds of fundamental social processes. समाज में दो तरह का प्रोसेस चलता है. एक associative process, जहाँ लोग मिलजुल कर प्यार से रहते हैं. People cooperate with each other, like adaptation, cooperation, contacting each other, so all that. And second is dissociative process. जिसमें लोग लड़ाई करें, झगड़ा करें, like conflict, competition. So one of these is talking about associative and dissociative forces. So apart from these two forms, a mixed form also exists. And each of these processes has subclasses, which in totality give approximately 650 forms of human relationships. This is what he said. तो ये बोलते हैं सोशियोलॉजी का सब्जेक्ट मैटर या कंटेंट मैटर है स्टडिंग और एनालाइजिंग द 650 फॉर्म्स ऑफ ह्यूमन रिलेशनशिप्स, राइट? After that, further, when we talk about it, Tawnees. So Tawnees is dividing the society into two categories, Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. मुझे पता है ये टर्म्स आपको डराएंगे क्योंकि ये जर्मन टर्म्स, इंग्लिश का टर्म ही नहीं. मैं आपके एज में थी, हाउ डिड आई मेमोराइज इट? दिस माइंड, देख रहा है, MEIN, me, mine, मैं. तो प्राइमरी रिलेशनशिप. सो Gemeinschaft is related to primary relationships. Primary relationships, for example, family. For example, friends. So when we are talking about Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, we need to understand that it is associated with what kind of possibilities. Okay, so Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. Gemeinschaft, check it. So it is associated with, we all can connect the primary relationships. Okay, and then we all can see Gesellschaft. Gesellschaft is related to the association and the society. So when we say Gesellschaft, so this is associated with the larger society. This is not primary relation. This is formal, impersonal, या इसको हम सेकेंडरी भी कह सकते हैं, सेकेंडरी relationships. It's so beautiful to learn new languages and new words, and like, being capable of interacting in that specific language. It is actually very empowering. The more you study, the more you will be realizing the beauty of it. Anyway, so when we are speaking of the same, we can see that Tawnees, he is studying both the two categories, the Gemeinschaft and the Gesellschaft. And he is saying the study of this is the domain of sociology. Weber, another thing. So he is saying that sociology should interpret or understand human behavior, the social behavior. So sociology is nothing but interpretation of social behavior. Remember social action? He was speaking of social action. Yeah. So Verstehen approach. So human interactions that are not social are excluded. So it started the interpretative school, and we all can see there are three types of action: traditional action, emotional action, passional action. We'll be understanding all this later because Weber is in syllabus. So we'll be understanding what are these types of social action and how it impacts the types of authority in a society. Anyway, so briefly, you should just know that Weber is talking about the scope of sociology based on interpretation and understanding of the social behavior that human beings have. Furthermore, when we talk about the same, we can see Ginsberg, he's saying that the conception of pure sociology is not practical. He will be criticizing the above, that is the formal school. So he'll be saying that sociology cannot be like pure and like, completely distinct. No one is studying any topic of sociology. It is only sociology studying that topic. So that is something which will narrow the possibility of what we are studying. We need to broaden the horizon by being open to blend the insights coming from other social sciences and then trying to give a exhaustive sociological explanation of the same. Second is the synthetic school. In the synthetic school, as I told you, synthetic coming from the word synthesis, mixture. So the synthetic school will be talking about borrowing the insights from others and blending it and creating a sociological explanation. Who are the thinkers? So the thinkers, when we speak of them, so we can see there's Durkheim, there's Leonard Hobhouse, there is Morris Ginsburg, and then we have Pitrim Sorokin. Sorokin देखो अमेरिकन लिखा है, ये बेसिकली रशियन थे, लेकिन आप लोग जब पढ़ेंगे कि जैसे जब सारा चेंज आना शुरू हुआ ना, मैसिव लेवल पे बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रेन आना शुरू हो जाता है, तो it is Sorokin who like and thinkers like Sorokin, जैसे अगर आप शायद novels पढ़ने में interested हो, तो Ayn Rand, another like literature, Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead, ये सब उन्होंने लिखा था. So all these people, they were like yes, of course, Prachi. Ginsburg will be talking more about synthetic school because he'll be saying that प्योर सोशियोलॉजी ऐसा कुछ हो ही नहीं सकता, आइसोलेशन में सोशियोलॉजी नहीं पढ़ सकते. तो ऑफ कोर्स यू कैन सी दैट यहाँ पर इनका नाम लिखा हुआ दिख रहा है. सो इट इज जस्ट कनेक्टेड. सो व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट like this thinker like Sorokin, so thinkers like Sorokin and all, they they could not survive the communist Russia and the intellectual limitations that were imposed upon. So he migrated to America, and there he got an opportunity to teach at one of the most prestigious universities. You'll realize towards the later half of his life, you see that Sorokin, he doesn't like Russia, cannot get back to Russia. But there were a lot of limitations in the American society as well, which he did not like and appreciate. So we see that, when we talk about Sorokin, we see the limitations in terms of he liking America as a country. But anyway, I'm saying all this so that you can visualize the person and the name. I'll be also talking about Sorokin when I'll be introducing Parsons, another core thinker in your syllabus. Talcott Parsons, when he goes to the university to teach, it is Sorokin and under his department that Parsons started teaching, taking tutorial lectures. And later on, he became a professor. So Sorokin, an important name. You'll also be listening to Sorokin. I'll be talking about him when I'm talking about the chapter pertaining to social change. ठीक है, तो आप बहुत सारे levels पे ये thinker का नाम सुनेंगे. Sorokin, जैसे डरखाइम बहुत बार नाम आएगा, हॉबहाउस गिन्सबर्ग उतनी बार नाम नहीं आएगा, लेकिन सोरोकिन और डरखाइम तो सिलेबस में ही है. ओके, तो ये लोग बोलते हैं कि वी नीड अ सिंथेसिस in the form of coordination among all social sciences. So synthesis kya of all social sciences. So Comte also belongs to this school and said that sociology is the queen of all social sciences, as it is the only discipline that can study both. It can study both what? The reasons for continuity of society and conditions contributing to change. So conditions contributing to change is factual, objective. किस reason से change आ रहा है, तो why you can enlist it. And reasons for continuity, why the society is sustaining itself. So it is the only discipline in social sciences, according to Comte, which can study continuity as well as change. So change and continuity can beautifully be studied by this discipline. That is what we all can connect. So Emile Durkheim, when we are talking about him, so he considers that sociology has 3 principal divisions. So when we talk about sociology has 3 principal divisions. So we can see one over here, as we can see, is social morphology, then social psychology, and then general sociology. So social morphology, it is as the word morphology goes, you can see that. So when we are talking about the social morphology, it will be connected to geographical or territorial basis, where you're studying the size, the density, the distribution of the population. When you're studying the size, density, and distribution of the population, it will be something that will be impacting the quality of social relations and social groups, the size and quality of population. Because if the area is overpopulous, strain over resources, crime rate can be high. If the area is not experiencing strain over resources, you'll be seeing relationships will be more effortless and smooth. Similarly, we can see that social morphology, under it, we can also see that sociology will be considered as a study of social structure or descriptions. And when I say social structure or descriptions of the main forms of social groups, institutions, and the classification. So it will be studying the different types of social structures and description of the main social groups that are persisting or being there in the society. Social physiology, as the word goes, social and then physiology. So physiology will be connected to genesis, how social institutions are coming into action, how they are existing, how they are emerging. So the genesis and the nature of different types of social institutions is studied in social physiology. General sociology, it is associated with formulating general social laws. Okay. So combination of the three, who is saying that? Durkheim. So Durkheim, when we reflect upon him, so we can see Durkheim is talking about three social principles. So one is social morphology, second is social physiology, and third is general sociology. Then comes another thinker, that is Hobhouse. Hobhouse, he says the whole social life of man is the sphere of sociology. Means whatever a human being is studying, that can be studied under sociology, whole social life. Similarly, Karl Benhin, he is a Hungarian thinker who is moving to Germany. That's why you'll be seeing him, that he's referred many a times as a German thinker as well in many books. So Karl Benhin, we can see that he is like a Hungarian moving to Germany, later to Britain. So he is saying there are two major sections to sociology. One is systematic and second is general sociology. So systematic and general sociology, and he is also talking about historical sociology. So that's how we all can connect. Furthermore, when we are talking about it, we can see Sorokin and Pitrim Sorokin. He is talking about general sociology. Like same institutions are found all over the world. What is the example of institutions? Similar institutions found all over the world. So the institution of family, the institution of marriage. We can see the institutions like the legal institutions, the political institutions. Right? So this is how we all can connect when we are talking about the kind of intervention that's required. So Sorokin is talking about this given possibility associated with what sociology can study. So he's saying that there are common institutions found all over the world, and that is what sociology studies. Then we all can find that he's also talking about it. Micro study in sociology is not required. He's saying not required. Weber, who was related to, if you remember the initial scope when we were talking about the formal school, so he was talking about micro study of the society. Whereas Sorokin is just talking about the contrast, just the opposite. He is saying that micro study is just not required. It's just not needed. Then we all can see this is Ginsberg. Ginsberg is talking about social pathology and social processes, and social pathology and social processes. Pathology, I mean, being a medical science, not necessarily student, but introduced to it in standard 11, 12 also, you must be understanding the word pathology. So pathology is associated with diagnosis of the problems, pathos, pain, logy, science. So scientific analysis of pain is pathology, if we go into the literal understanding of the word. So social pathology, understanding the social problems and pains in a scientific manner, is social pathology. So Ginsberg, he is saying that sociology is associated with studying with social pathology and social processes. Okay, I hope that's easy. And then further, he is substantiating that how the different types of, we can see, problems can emerge and what can be studied. So we can see it provides a classification of types and forms of social relationships. It helps in determining the relationship between different parts of social life. And it also helps to disentangle the fundamental condition. So disentangle the fundamental condition of social change and persistence, and to discover sociological principles governing social life. So that's how we are supposed to understand this when we are talking about the same. Fine. Now, as we are, I'm so sorry. Where was I? What's opening? Yeah. So I believe all of you can see this. And with respect to this, when we are now engaging with, like after this given dimension of scope, the different phases of sociology, which also discusses about the scope of sociology. So different phases of sociology, when we are talking about it here, the evolution of sociology is also there, and the scope is also being discussed. So evolution as well as scope, how sociology emerged as a discipline, and how different thinkers have contributed to the scope of sociology, that what should be the subject matter of sociology per se, right? So there are different phases which we all will be getting exposed to, and here we'll be getting exposed to different perspectives in sociology. The different sociological perspectives or approaches to study the society. So there we will be understanding the positivist methods, non-positivist methods, and other than that, later on, the feminist and the Marxist method, which is related to the conflict school of thought. We'll be talking about that also. And we'll be also reflecting upon certain other dimensions, but that's in the next chapter. Abhi iska thoda sa prelude hame mile, that which thinker is talking about what. You borrow these ideas and you continue with these ideas in the next chapter. So सबसे पहला first phase है sociology के emergence और growth में, that is 1838 से 1880s, that is August. Okay, so August Comte, Saint Simon, Herbert Spencer. Now it's all enlisted. So Comte, he is focusing on macro units, means the larger units, the society. So he is talking about, अब ये keywords याद रखिएगा, he is talking about social statics and social dynamics. Statics, continuity, dynamics, change. Remember he had said that sociology is the only discipline which can talk about continuity and change. Remember that? Couple of minutes back we were discussing that. Can everyone recall and connect? Just say something so that I feel that सब जिंदा है, सब connected है, और सबको याद है that it was discussed couple of minutes back. Yes, people, have you, like, do you remember that this was being discussed couple of minutes back? Write something if the relay and the transmission is going on. Fine. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Now, so with respect to this, when we are talking, second one is Saint Simon had already said, like this, social physics, right? Social physics ke alawa, we all can see this. Spencer. So Spencer kya keh rahe? He is giving the organismic analogy. Organismic analogy मैंने पहले ही आपको बताया, वो एक डायग्राम जो मैं बार बार बनाती हूँ समझाने के लिए, कीड़ा वाला. So like let's say this is an organism. So this organism, let's say, has different parts. इसके मान लो lungs है, kidneys है, heart है, ये है, वो है, 70 organ. अब every organ is working in coordination with each other. In the similar manner, in a society, there is the political unit, the legal body, the educational, the religious. Okay. So there are different units, and all the units are working in coordination with each other. Coordination नहीं होगा, society नहीं चलेगी. So this is organismic analogy. What is analogy? Analogy means comparison. So जैसे एक ऑर्गेनिज्म के सारे ऑर्गन्स कोऑर्डिनेट करते हैं एक दूसरे से, and that is how the organism is able to live. In the similar manner, the different organs of a society, the different institutions, bodies of a society, they mutually support each other for the wholesome running and functioning of the society. So that is organismic analogy. So when we talk about Spencer, he gave an organismic analogy. All societies, they change from simple to complex stage. लेकिन ये simple से complex stage में तभी वो इवॉल्व कर सकता है जब सारे ऑर्गन, सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन, सारे बॉडीज एक दूसरे से कोऑपरेशन में चले, ठीक है। अब यहाँ ये जो है फॉलोड एन इंडक्टिव अप्रोच, स्पेंसर ने एक इंडक्टिव अप्रोच विथ मल्टीपल ऑब्जर्वेशंस, इंडक्टिव अप्रोच सारे इंड्यूस इंडक्ट सारी चीजें बोरो करके इनकॉर्पोरेट, तो ही वाज ओपन फॉर लाइक incorporating insights coming from different subjects, different disciplines, okay, with multiple observations, and that is how he tried to, we can see, that is how he tried to emphasize, that is how he tried to substantiate that how things unfold. So we can see that he, Spencer, he tried to understand the social reality in terms of empiricism. Empiricism bole to, what is empiricism? Numbers, facts, okay, facts, numbers, numerals. That is what empiricism means. So the overall aim was to approach with a humanistic perspective and understand the social problems and find solutions. कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है, क्यों हो रहा है, कैसे ठीक कर सकते हैं, ठीक। फिर 1880s में ये स्कोप और वाइडन होता है, क्यों, वेबर आ जाते हैं और वेबर बोलते हैं हम माइक्रो रियलिटी को स्टडी कर सकते हैं। माइक्रो मीन्स डे टू डे लाइफ इंटरैक्शन, why it's happening, how is it happening, and how that can be interpreted. So that is something which can also be studied. So he went into that. And Durkheim is into synthetic school of thought. दोनों बिल्कुल अलग अलग अप्रोच, एक बोल रहा है फॉर्मल अप्रोच, इंटरप्रिटेटिव अप्रोच, दूसरा बंदा बोल रहा है जनरलाइज्ड अप्रोच, sharing the wisdom from other disciplines, having that kind of approach. So we can borrow division of labor from economics, we can borrow suicide from psychology. This is what Durkheim is saying. So Durkheim is synthetic school and Weber is formal school. So that's how we see. So two different schools got created. The scope of sociology further got widened. Then the third phase is there. So this is 1940s to 1990s. So 1940s to 1990s, we see there is blending of formal and synthetics. So who are the thinkers who get the credit? Parsons, Morton, both are there in your syllabus. C. Wright Mills will be given as a passing reference in criticism of the thinkers, and Anthony Giddens will also be given as a passing reference. Okay. Alfred Schutz, इनको आप phenomenology और ethnomethodology के समय Harold Garfinkel इन लोगों का नाम में लूंगी. I'll be explaining that. So with respect to this, first Parsons. So Parsons said that we can borrow the wisdom from other disciplines and blend it. And on one hand, we can try to develop sociology as a distinct discipline, but in the process of developing it as a distinct discipline, we can borrow the insights from other disciplines, do exclusive research, and prove our point. Merton, he is also picking his concept of latent and manifest function, and he is again blending the micro and macro perspectives. So micro means day-to-day life, smaller details that happen in and around us, and macro perspective is the larger society and its unfolding. So he is again blending them. So the blending of formal and synthetic school took place after 1940s. C. Wright Mills gives the concept of sociological imagination. Sociological imagination पे short note question आया हुआ है. I've already prepared the notes. It is there, and we'll be discussing that in the near future. Near future means within like couple of lectures, you will be exposed to what is sociological imagination in greater detail. Then you have Anthony Giddens. Anthony Giddens, he is one of the latest thinkers amongst all. He was also there as a part of the British Parliament, and he was very influential. And he was capable to Tony Blair ke time mein the shayad. And he was the person who could influence even the policy making of the government. Anyway, so when we are talking about Anthony Giddens, he gave the theory of structuration and double hermeneutics. So theory of structuration and double hermeneutics. Just know the terms today, just because you're getting exposed to the name and who is saying what. So just get exposed to the name that acha, there is this thinker who's talking about the theory of structuration and double hermeneutics. ऐसा कुछ concept इस इंसान ने दिया है. या C. Wright Mills एक बंदा है जो sociological imagination जैसा concept दिया है. Pam will be explaining all this later. Because right now, if I give you too much of theory, boom. Okay, so I don't want any bombardment of information happening. अभी जितना ले पा रहे हो बस उतना ही बहुत. Because you'll be in a stronger and better position after just a couple of months, because you'll be connecting with thinkers, you'll be recalling them, you'll be like, yes, I'm aware of this name, I know what this thinker has proposed, so all that. जैसे कि ये है phenomenology. This is there in paper 2 when we are talking about non-positivist or non-positivism, yeah, interpretative sociology. This is there in your syllabus. So chapter 2. So in chapter 2, I'll be discussing phenomenology and ethnomethodology in greater. Right now, you just should know that by blending the formal and synthetic school approach, phenomenology, ethnomethodology, social imagination, all these concepts come on ground. All right. Then the present phase, the last phase, that is associated with the component associated with 1980s and beyond. Okay, देखो यहाँ sociological imagination दिया है. So I told you I'll be discussing it a little later. And this is something which will also be recalled later. Means once this chapter is over and whenever we get reference of C. Wright Mills, I'll be helping you recall the concept of sociological imagination. Anyway, let's see. So in present phase, when we talk about the scope of sociology, there emerges the postmodernist thought. Postmodernist thought is related to all disciplines, means it will widen the area of sociology like anything. Like how is the sociological reflection connected to environment, connected to healthcare, connected to IT sector, biotechnology, media, defense, today artificial intelligence. So how we can see that how the, the sociological reflection can be incorporated, how the sociological insight can be incorporated while studying these topics or subjects. So the postmodernist thought, when we say postmodernist, so modernism, rationality, scientific temperament, systematic and scientific study of the society. This is saying postmodernism, means beyond modernity. So what happens beyond modernity? So beyond modernity, what we see is that they believe that there is no larger truth. Everything that we are living around, okay, is just a meta-narrative. And no meta-narrative is true. Everyone is constantly building. Say, for example, you all could see that Mr. Junior Ambani, Anant Ambani, he has created Vantara, right? And Vantara is a natural reserve, animal reserve, very exotic one. And thousands of acres of land has been converted into a private conservation, right? Now the question is, बन तो गया Vantara और private conservation, और उतना सारा land एक private company ने confiscate तो किया ना. And Jamnagar and all the other areas in and around it, which is like billions of rupees worth land and like thousands and thousands of hectares of land. In future, they have plans for some electricity related project and energy related project that they want to work on in that area. So animals will be nearby. You cannot get rid of the The change of governments cannot get rid of the animals because it's a protected area now. And close to that protected area, there'll be no trespassing also of common civilians and citizens. And if there is secretive research project going on in another secluded corner of that land, keeping a tap over it, getting the data associated with it, doing any kind of exclusive research will become all the more tough. Think about it. So, rejection of meta-narratives in the post-truth means whatever truth is being sold to you in the name of modernity, in the name of what is modernity? Rational, logical, scientific, information pouring from all sources, all facts. Post-truth will be like, what you are serving to me as truth may not be true. There can be a parallel narrative to it. There can be a contradictory narrative to it. And means for anything that's existing, there'll be different perspectives. And every perspective will back up its insight with its own thought. Every perspective will back up its idea with its own examples and facts. So which of the perspectives are really true cannot be determined. So what is true becomes a matter of debate. And when what is true becomes a matter of debate, that is called post-truth. Post-truth word, उत्तर सत्यकाल. Okay, सच क्या है ये किसी को नहीं पता है. Okay, सच के अब कई मुखौटे और हर मुखौटा अपना तथ्य प्रस्तुत कर रहा है. मैं जो बोल रहा हूं मैं ही सही, मेरे पास ये फैक्ट्स है, अपने आप को बैक कर. So that's why post 1980s the world moved to post-truth. Ukraine will justify its own stance in the war. Russia will justify its own stance in the war. They both will be justifying their stance with their own facts. Hamas, its own facts. Palestine, its own facts, as in, and like Israel with its own facts. And none of the sides will be completely true. So that is what we are talking about when we are talking about post-truth world. And rejection of meta-narratives, you'll create a common, a larger explanation of what's happening. And there will be micro contradictions, there will be micro units to the same larger narrative. जो बड़ा सा सच, बड़ी सी थियरी हमारे आगे प्रेजेंट की जाएगी, उस थियरी के अंदर ढेर सारे छेद और हर छेद के अंदर एक contradictory analysis and explanation. So that is what is rejection of meta-narratives. Okay, I hope everyone is getting an idea. So rejection of meta-narratives in this post-truth. So there's no way to understand the objective reality. No way to understand this objective reality. Why? Why will the postmodernists say this? That there is no way to understand the objective reality because there are multiple interpretations. And multiple interpretations to what's happening in and around us. So सच क्या है और झूठ क्या है वो blur हो जाएगा. It will be a gray zone. Okay? So you must be finding that the scope of sociology has become more intense in the present phenomenon. It started with we'll study simple society. From simple we'll start studying complex society. How from simple to complex it unfolds. Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer. Now you are listening to post-truth world, postmodernist thoughts. I think these are new ideas for you, but these are not the ideas which should be surprising to you, which should be something which is above your level. No, you are an adult. It's high time that you get exposed to these ideas as ideas which are shaping your immediate world. Ideas which are impacting your existence. All right. So I believe all of you are able to understand this. Now, let us see. So here, when we are talking about it, Jacques Derrida is another French thinker. He said we can always deconstruct the language. A language can never completely encapsulate the wholesome reality of what's happening around us. So Derrida believed in deconstruction of language. भाषा सच को समेट ही नहीं पा रही. Michel Foucault, कई लोग माइकल फूको भी बोलते हैं, बट मिशेल फूको, ही इज अ डिस्कोर्स एनालिसिस. सिर्फ नाम नाम जान लो, तुमसे कभी भी मिशेल फूको पे नहीं बोलेगा लिख दो 150 वर्ड. एलन ब्राइमन पे बोल देगा 150 वर्ड लिख दो, नहीं होगा. जस्ट नीड टू नो ये सब है आज के थिंकर्स, टुडेज थिंकर्स. ओके, these are the present day thinkers which are shaping the domain of thinking and ideology. So Alan Bryman, when we say multidisciplinary approach, he is also saying mix all the methods. So methodological pluralism is something that he is encouraging. All right. And Jean Baudrillard. So Jean Baudrillard, when we are talking about him, we can see that he is talking about mass media and how mass media has completely reversed the idea of we can consider the common man's concern, the society's concern, and society is dominated by economic structure. Rather, today, the society is not dominated by the economic structure, it is controlled by signs and images, which are creation of social media or mass media. It is controlled by signs and images. Like constantly we can see that that's something which our narratives are constantly built around. Who says wearing heels is comfortable? No, it is not. There are so many women who wear heels and they find it smart, they find it contemporary. Similarly, the idea of being rich, like wearing torn jeans. So torn jeans looking cool. Think about it. Especially the stone polishing of the jeans and rubbing and cleaning of the jeans is done. So we can all see that the signs and images are constantly getting built and they're constantly getting created. So that's what we all can see when we are talking about the same. Again, when we speak of this, Marxism and feminism, these are later day developments. Okay, so you need to remember this specific fact that when we are talking about Marxism and feminism, which emerged in 1960s, it does not fit in any school. In any school means either formal school nor synthetic school, and nor the 1940s onwards, the blending of the formal and synthetic school approach, neither the third. It does not fit in any school. It has a different approach in itself, and it is also a part of the subject matter or scope of sociology. So what is Marxism? What is feminism? We'll be discussing it briefly in the sociological perspectives, because research methods and techniques, sociological perspectives or theoretical strands of sociology, major theoretical strands of sociology is a subtopic in paper, in second chapter, Sociology as Science. And there I will be discussing this given subsegment in greater detail. Okay, so this is something which you will be revisiting again. Why present phase thinker is still dominated by male thinkers? We can hardly find any female thinker here because feminism is yet to be taught, Ashna. And you will be finding a lot of thinkers who will be there, who will be taught on and off in different chapters. Margaret Mead is one of them who has made major contributions when you'll be talking about the chapter of religion and society. Okay, so feminist thinkers will be there. You'll be also finding a lot of thinkers in violence against women. You'll be also finding them in the second chapter, of course, when I'll be talking about this component of feminism and how they have contributed in the domain of research. And we'll be also reflecting upon few more. Now, going ahead. So this sociological imagination, when we are talking about it, so it is a concept which was given by C. Wright Mills. This is the time period of Mills, 1916 to 1962. And he gave a framework for understanding our social world that far surpasses any common sense notion we might derive from our limited social experiences. Okay, so how do we understand our social world? That's what sociological imagination can facilitate, which is which is beyond the experiences, the social experiences that we have per se. So Mills, when we talk about him, he is a contemporary sociologist who brought tremendous insight into the daily lives of society's members. Okay, so we all can see that Mills, he stated that neither the life of an individual nor the history of a society can be understood without understanding both. I apologize. So when we are talking about Mills, we can see that he is giving a lot of thorough understanding about how our social reality is unfolding and what can be lived on ground. So he is saying that we cannot understand the society in isolation, nor we can understand the individual in isolation. We need to understand both. The understanding of individual gives an understanding of the society, and the understanding of the society gives an understanding of the individual, vice versa. Okay, I always used to say that as a student of literature, that literature paves the way to the society and sociology paves the way to the individual. So just the same thing is given by C. Wright Mills when we talk about it. So life of an individual and history of a society, both are interconnected. Both help to understand the other. So when we are talking about this, we can see the sociological imagination. It's making the connection between personal challenges and larger social issues. So Mills is identifying what? Troubles, the personal challenges and issues, the larger challenges, okay, which is also known as biography, history, okay. So when we are talking about the challenges which are studied over the time period, which a community is observing or studying. So when we study that, we can see it in the form of history. When it is individual challenge, it is biography. Society's challenge, history. Individuals challenge, biography. So Mill's sociological imagination allows individuals to see the relationship. Okay, so it allows the individuals to see, allows individuals to see what is the relationship between events and their personal lives. So like, let's say if there is the partition of India unfolding in 1947, and there is a lot of communal riot-like situation or communal situation unfolding on ground, and that strains the relationship between the human beings. It strains the relationship and the harmonious interaction that has taken place between human beings for centuries. So the personal life is getting impacted, and the personal life is getting impacted by what? The larger upheaval, the larger social phenomenon, the larger understanding, and how the individuals react. That is something which is going to shape the history also. It's going to shape the society also. Okay. So in other words, the mindset provides the ability for individuals to realize the relationship between their personal experiences and larger society in which they live. So it's the mindset. So this mindset, when you understand the correlation, the sociological imagination is providing the mindset that we tend to understand that what is the relationship between our personal relationships in coordination with how the larger society experiences and unfolds situations on ground. So we all can see when we are discussing about the same, that personal troubles, the personal challenges are private problems, individuals' problems. And the experience, when we see this, they experience, just a moment. So we all can see that they experience within the character of the individual and the range of their immediate relation to others. तो हमें पर्सनल प्रॉब्लम लगता है कि ये तो बस हमारे रिश्तों के बीच आ गया है, हमारे बीच आ गया, इट्स अ प्राइवेट प्रॉब्लम. Okay, so personal trouble seems to be a private problem which is having more immediate relation to others. So Mills identified that we function in our, like, personal lives as actors and actresses who make choices about our friends, family, group, work, school, and other issues. We're constantly making choices and issues which are within our control. लेकिन क्या ये choices पूरी तरह से हमारे हैं? Are these issues completely in our choice? For example, in Afghanistan, girls are not allowed to go to school. It's the third year of Taliban ruling Afghanistan. And girls are still not allowed to go to school. Schools have yet not opened. So in such a situation, suppose a person is making a choice that it's okay, let our daughter study at home. We'll not devoid her from basic literacy and education. At the same time, why to risk her life and her well-being by trying to propagate to open a school because I am a professor or a teacher if a woman is thinking like that. So why to risk it? Because if we are alive, then only we can facilitate any other thing. So suppose an individual is thinking like that. Suppose such a possibility is unfolding. That's the question. That are the choices completely ours? Is not society involved even in our personal choices? To a certain extent, the degree of influence does come from the society in which we are living and the possibilities we are exposed to. Though the impact can be of very personal in nature, the choices can be very personal in nature. Like here, there is an example, a college student who parties 4 nights out of 7, who rarely attends class, who never does the homework, has a personal trouble that interferes with odds of his success at college. However, when 50% of all college students in US never graduate, we label it as a larger social issue. एक बच्चा करता है तो हमें इंडिविजुअल प्रॉब्लम दिखता है, लेकिन आधे से ज्यादा एक सोसाइटी के बच्चे यही हरकत करते हैं, तब हम उसको इंडिविजुअल प्रॉब्लम की तरह नहीं देखते, एक उसको कॉमन सोशल प्रॉब्लम या पब्लिक इशू की तरह देखते हैं. ठीक है, तो इसीलिए द पर्सनल gets into the public domain and the public domain gets into the personal domain. So larger social issues or public issues are also those that lie beyond one's personal control. As I gave you the example of Afghanistan, that you want to go to school, pehle to ye kar dete ho, we label it as a larger social issue when the problem is persisting at a bigger scale. The same private problem, it is persisting at a bigger scale. Now, when we are reflecting upon this, so larger social or public issue that lies beyond one's own control. Okay, so lie beyond one's personal control, right? And the range of one's inner life. So in this given situation, when we are talking about this, we have to work upon the given scenario. So in this given situation, when we are talking about this, that the larger social issue or the public issue, what is it experiencing and what kind of intervention it is required? So we all can see that the broader problems, the broader matters of organization and the process which are rooted in the society rather than the individual. So nationwide, the students, they come to the college as freshmen, and we all can see that they are coming to the school and they are studying. Freshman means, junior college students. So, and they are often ill-prepared to understand the rigors of the college life. They have not been challenged enough in the high school, okay? And they have to make certain adjustments associated with it. So, on an average, we can see a teenager is nowadays exposed a lot to social media, TV channels, etc., and spending hours together with friends and this and that. So in this situation, we can see that a larger national level approach to the education system, to the tools, to the techniques, to the opportunities that we offer for the youngsters will shape the way they will be studying, they will be performing, they will be interacting, and the kind of intervention they will be engaging with. So we all can see that whenever we are talking about the given idea associated with what impact is experienced on ground, we all can understand that Neither the society is living in isolation or doing things randomly, nor the individual is living in isolation or things happening to individual randomly. So the real power of the sociological imagination is found in how we learn to distinguish between the personal and social levels. Okay. So this is the real power. Real power is distinguishing between, just a second. So the real power is in distinguishing between what unfolds at personal as well as social level, differentiating between the. So we need to distinguish between the personal and social level. And that can be associated with different types of individual challenges that happens. It can be associated with the economic condition they are exposed to and how the economic condition is impacting the individual's nature of performance, participation, okay? And at the same time, we all can reflect upon the other simultaneous social conditions. And then there can be also personal problems which are exclusive in nature. But mostly the problems which look like personal and exclusive are not exclusive actually. If a rickshaw puller's son is experiencing strain in studying, okay, if a rickshaw puller's child is experiencing the strain in studying, it's not an exclusive problem because it's the rickshaw puller who was raised in a poor family with poor skill sets, exposed to employment at a young age, and getting married early. And then the person is having a child with low social security, and the person is trying to send the child to learn at school, but the real breakthrough is not happening. So when we talk about breakthroughs, when we talk about interventions, this is what we need to understand. Interventions don't happen overnight, and challenges do not emerge in isolation. That's what C. Wright Mills wants to say under the concept of social imagination. So here is the core expression. A majority of personal problems are not experienced as exclusive personal issues, but they are influenced and we can say they are influenced and affected by the social norms, the habits, and expectations. So consider the issues like homelessness, crime, divorce, lack of access to healthcare. Are these isolated issues? Are these caused due to personal choices? No, not really. No, not really. They are somewhere interconnected. So that's how we need to understand problems, apathy, pathos, challenges which occur around us. They do not exist in isolation. The problems that we suffer from, they always have a societal context. So when we are talking about the same, we need to understand that using sociological imagination, we can view these issues as interconnected personal and public concerns. So we can see that C. Wright Mills has developed the scope of sociology by blending the micro with macro. That is the personal realities with the larger societal realities and larger societal realities with the personal realities. Is it understandable so far? Can you connect with C. Wright Mills' insight? All of you. Can you connect? Yes? I'll simultaneously, as I'm discussing about C. Wright Mills' ideas, I can further substantiate the given component pertaining to, I would say, what's unfolding for all of us on ground when we are taking his one of the examples that homelessness may be blamed on individuals who are living on streets. So, but is the personal choice made by them that we want to stay on the streets? Is it because they are lazy? Is it because they are unmotivated or they did not get educated? They did not study? It's like, victim shaming. That's what C. Wright Mills says. There is something which is related to victim shaming. Sometimes a lot of people who suffer and experience social failing, it is not because of their individual mistake, it is because of the conditions that they are exposed to. That's why when a rickshaw puller's son becomes an IAS, we're like, oh my God, wow. Because we know that the social conditions are not permitting the rickshaw puller's son in natural, normal situations to become an IAS officer. So because we can understand that the child has broken barriers, the child has challenged the interventions, challenged the barriers, and able to prove his worth. That's how the child is getting selected. When we understand that reality, it is then that we are able to see the human beings experience their social realities and how and why a specific condition is emerging. A better understanding of it is developed accordingly. Okay, so when we are talking about this, we need to understand this. Okay, so here we may need to understand the types of social obstacles and social failings. We need to understand rather than victim shaming. Okay, blaming the victim fails into account of societal factors. We tend to, neglect that. Bad schools, high level of unemployment, high housing cost. There can be multiple social reasons, social problems due to which a person may become homeless. So C. Wright Mills, when we are talking about him, he originally wrote the concept of social imagination, whereby he tried to explain how the social system, the society, is connected to the individual concerns and how the individual concerns are shaping the social system, how they both are interconnected to each other. So that's something which we need to understand. Okay. So the very structure of opportunities has collapsed. We need to understand that. Both the correct statement, when we are talking about it, so both the correct statement of the problem and the range of possible solution. Okay, when we are talking about the problems and the solution, for both we need to have a comprehensive understanding of the personal reality, the personal potential of the individual, the interventions that needs to be caused at individual level, as well as we need to understand the interventions which can be caused at social, economic, and political level. So we need to create a balance between both. That is what it is talking about. That is social imagination. Is everyone understanding social imagination? Any doubts associated with the same? Yes. I hope social imagination is clear to everyone. Now, how do we prepare the material related to sociology and other social sciences? I expect everyone to respond that whether you could understand social imagination or not. Now, when we are going ahead with sociology and other social sciences, how do we connect the given idea associated with sociology and other social sciences? How the notes ought to be prepared? Everyone needs to understand that bit. See, here, when we are talking about it, so sociology and other social sciences, we all can connect this given dynamics of sociology and other social sciences with respect to certain subsegments. Like, for example, we can prepare the notes in the manner that first we understand that what is it that sociology has to offer, and then what is it that the other subject has to offer, and then we have to see the comparatives between the two. On what grounds they are common, the topics that they are studying is common, and on what grounds they are distinct or different. That's how you prepare. ठीक है, मैं तुम्हें थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चंस भी दिखा दूं. तो यहाँ पर जैसे कि मैंने आपको सोशियोलॉजी एंड पॉलिटिकल साइंस, फिर उसके बाद आपको आप नोट्स में दिखेगा सोशियोलॉजी एंड इकोनॉमिक्स. देन फर्दर यू विल बी फाइंडिंग द कंपैरिजन बिटवीन सोशियोलॉजी एंड हिस्ट्री. After sociology and history, then you'll be finding sociology and psychology. And after that, I also have given sociology and social anthropology. आगे philosophy भी होना चाहिए. Relation of sociology with ethics. After ethics, sociology and philosophy. So you can see that, the more important ones have been consolidated. See what kind of questions have been raised related to this. The other scope of subject we have completed. Comparison of other social sciences. I'll discuss two of them. I'll show how notes is prepared. And this is your homework that you have to study. Sociology and other social sciences. That is आपका page number 23 तक है. 25 तक पढ़ लीजिए, 15 तक आप पढ़कर बैठे ही थे, है ना. तो 15 to 25 प्लीज कंप्लीट दिस मटेरियल. 2 ही पेज है आपका कॉमन सेंस वन, कोई ज्यादा नहीं. ठीक है. So just a moment to get back to page 50. Yeah. So sociology and other social sciences, when we are talking about this, just go through this given content, just be thorough with the content, the entire bit till sociology and common sense, so that when I explain and I tell you how to prepare notes, you are able to understand. Let us have a look at the nature of questions that we have dealt with. So from the viewpoint of growing importance of multidisciplinarity, how do you relate sociology to other social sciences? 20 marks का question. ठीक है. तो इसमें 2 सेगमेंट है. पहला तो इंट्रोडक्शन में आप बताएंगे कि सोशियोलॉजी अब मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी अप्रोच पे क्यों चल रहा है. बिकॉज वी हैव अ ब्लेंडेड अंडरस्टैंडिंग, blended approach. 1940s onwards, we are going with blended approach. So the blended approach will encourage sociology to borrow topics and insights from other disciplines. So 1940s to 1980s and 1980s to present has encouraged us to develop sociology in the lines of developing the content in a manner whereby there is like the component of developing sociology in a manner that it is helping us to um, borrow insights from other social sciences. ये सबसे पहले आएगा आपके इंट्रोडक्शन में. 2-3 सेंटेंस का 20 मार्क क्वेश्चन है. 300 words, you have 4 pages to write, so you can comfortably dedicate one little para related to this, that why the multidisciplinary approach has come into existence. So why has it come into existence? Because the scope of sociology has allowed it. The blended approach has allowed it. ठीक है. तो ये जैसे आपने लिखा थोड़ा blended approach पे एक पैरा गया. Changing the para, then you will be talking about like comparing sociology with other social sciences, like how sociology is connected to anthro and how it is distinct yet. Despite being distinct, how is it connected? So growing importance. Okay. सोशल साइकोलॉजी जैसा सब्जेक्ट आ जाना है ना. सो पॉलिटिकल सोशियोलॉजी जैसा सब्जेक्ट आ जाना. सो सोशल साइकोलॉजी, पॉलिटिकल sociology, these disciplines are a byproduct of this multidisciplinary approach. So it's like combining the two disciplines and the approach, how new disciplines are coming up, new approaches are coming up. That's what had to be discussed in this answer. The more latest the questions, the more tougher they will be. The older the question, the easier it will be. Like see this, पीछे से दिखाती हूँ फिर आगे समझ में आएगा. देखो. So 2011 में तो यही है ना. ठीक है. Fine. So let's see this. Just a moment. Yeah. So just see this. What can sociology show us about our actions? Discuss the practical significance of sociology. 2011 का है question. लंबा question है. So what can sociology show us about our actions? Show us about our actions. ये and then the practical significance. So show us about our actions. ये आपका chapter 2 से connected है. इसमें you will be talking about symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, ethnomethodology. ठीक है. So no one will get appalled. Oh my God, I cannot understand or write, because you have yet not studied symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, ethnomethodology is related to social action. अब यहाँ पर what can sociology show us about our action? So here the introduction, the intro para will come from scope. इंट्रो पैरा में कौन आएगा? वेबर. वेबर का क्या आएगा? इंटरप्रिटेटिव सोशियोलॉजी, which helps us to study human behavior, which helps us to study human action. ठीक है. So इंट्रो पैरा में वेबर, उसके बाद formal school of sociology, we'll be discussing about that. We'll be also reflecting upon certain other insights. ठीक है. So हम लोग यहाँ पर formal school. Okay. So how it is, the formal school is also connected with the interpretative understanding of our social action, and discuss the practical significance of sociology. उसके बाद फिर chapter 2 से आप symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, ethnomethodology बीच में समझाएंगे. फिर ये सब करते करते आपका 1.5-2 पेज आराम से भर जाएगा. 2 से ज्यादा, because Symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, ethnomethodology will take some substantial chunk. So almost 2.5, maybe 3 pages will get engaged. Okay. Then the practical significance of sociology. So how the application of blended approach, which incorporates the understanding of our action, which incorporates the understanding of our private, public, social, community-oriented actions, कोई sociological imagination वाली बात, ठीक है, helps to study the society better. अब इसका practical significance क्या होगा? Practical significance ये होगा that hence we can study what? Problems की better understanding और solutions की better understanding रहेगी. So problems, solutions, ठीक है, ये सब की क्या होगी हमारे पास? Better understanding. I hope everyone is able to understand how to go ahead with the answer. Right? This was a relatively, like, a question which needed decoding. This part yet to be taught. Okay. Now, compare and contrast sociology with anthropology. We can see that in notes. We'll be reflecting upon it, to be discussed. How is sociological approach to human action different from that of psychological approach? Right? Notes. पढ़ने को बोला है, homework है आपका. So we'll be studying this. We'll be discussing this. Discuss the relevance of historical method in the study of society. Again, we can see this, right? Notes, homework. Then again, we can see this. Sociology is preeminently the study of modern societies. So this is associated with what? Scope, subject matter. Scope या subject matter, sociology का कैसे contemporary society का है. It's not connected to ancient or primitive societies. Okay. It's more associated with contemporary concepts. Again, discuss the changing equation of disciplines of sociology with other social sciences. 20 marks का बड़ा question. So sociology with other social sciences कैसे changing equation? Changing equation बोले तो, what do we understand by this term? Changing equation. So changing equation means we need to understand how the relation between the two disciplines is getting closer at the same time distinct. So that's what. See this question of sociological imagination. The sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relationship of the two in a society. So history, societal interpretation, biography, personal individuals interpretation, personal experiences, right? And the relationship of the two when studied together helps us to understand what is happening in the society from a broader perspective. So ये 20 marks का question हमारे पास notes में supported है, notes and it has been taught already. ये पढ़ा भी दिया. Okay. In the context of globalization, has the scope of sociology changed? Concerns क्या change हुआ है? तो जब हम sociology paper 2 पढ़ेंगे, so in sociology paper 2 we'll see how the topics, the concerns that we are studying is constantly changing, and there you'll get an idea. You'll have to borrow from that area for this given. So what is scope? Just an introduction. Then how the topic, the concern of sociology has undergone a change. The chapters that are taught, the topics that are taught, the subtopics that are undergoes a change, right? So I hope all of you can see that whatever is being taught, it is in consonance with the previous year question paper. So complete the homework, read sociology and other social sciences and sociology and common sense. We shall meet on Monday. I hope all of you will be able to understand this. And if there are any questions or queries, you can always raise it to me personally as well. All right, then. Thank you and take care. Have a great day.